Welcome back. Thank you for subscribing to this channel, for hitting the like button, for hitting the notification bell, and for leaving comments below. That seems to be the most challenging thing for people to do, but it's important as we build this community so I know what you want to hear about. Before you have surgery for stress urinary incontinence, consider this. Bladder control is a fitness issue. It deserves a fitness solution. It's certainly not a surgical issue, probably not even a medical problem. I'm a urogynecologist. My name is Dr. Bruce Crawford, and I've been performing surgery for bladder control problems for the last 20 years. I've done over 5,000 surgeries for stress urinary incontinence, and that's the topic of today's video. What is stress urinary incontinence? It's kind of a funny term. Sounds like leakage of urine when you get stressed out. And while that may happen to some, that's not the definition of stress urinary incontinence. Stress urinary incontinence is leakage of urine associated with physical activity like coughing, sneezing, laughing, running, jumping on a trampoline. I am shocked how many women jump on trampolines. In my office, I hear all the time, I got a trampoline for my kids, put it up in the backyard, we got on, and I wet my pants. And that was the event that prompts them to seek medical help for this particular problem. Effort incontinence, stress incontinence, is treatable, it's preventable, and it's treatable without surgery. Surgery is successful. In fact, the modern surgeries we have for this particular problem are the safest, most effective procedures ever described for the treatment of stress incontinence. The modern sling procedure, sometimes called a mid-urethral sling procedure, such as the TOT or the TVT, were described in the late 90s, early 80s, and work very well. They're successful 70-80% of the time, but not 100% of the time. They're safe procedures. Very few people have complications, but some people have complications. 3 to 5% of patients will have a complication related to a mid-urethral sling procedure, a so-called mesh-related complication, because these procedures do involve implantation of a permanent synthetic mesh. That good mesh you've seen advertised by lawyers on television. It's the safest procedure ever described, but there's still this 3 to 5% risk of a mesh-related complication, like erosion of the mesh into the vagina, a pain problem following surgery, being unable to empty your bladder well following surgery, infection. These things are not common unless they happen to you, and then they feel like 100%. If you could avoid that risk, wouldn't you want to do it? If you could avoid it with something that doesn't involve undergoing general anesthesia, wouldn't you want to do it? The time and expense and hazards associated with surgery warrant at least investigating conservative alternatives for this problem, for this fitness problem. And that's why I created the Pilates method. The Pilates method, when applied 5 minutes twice a day, before you get dressed in the morning, before you get back in bed at night, for the majority of patients that undertake the program, is successful. These patients can prevent other kinds of problems like vaginal prolapse and even treat the symptoms associated with vaginal prolapse as long as the prolapse isn't too severe when they begin. Mild to moderate vaginal prolapse is amenable to a program of pelvic floor exercise. And a targeted program, scientifically derived like the Pilates method, is an excellent choice. If you haven't already figured out where our website is, please do it now. www.pilates.com, Pilates.com, is worth browsing through to gain more information about how we do what we do and how you can apply this method yourself, how you can apply it at home. We have a telemedicine service that's available now that will allow me or one of our continence coaches to work with you directly online from the privacy of your own home. So take a look at that. I think you'll be glad you did. Stress incontinence is the most common form of urinary incontinence. 1 in 3 women over the age of 18 have stress urinary incontinence, and even though it's not life-threatening, it is quality of life-threatening. It's a $20 billion a year industry in the United States. Consider that, $20 billion a year. And did you know the majority of that money is spent on pads and diapers and skincare products? That's a big business. And wouldn't it be convenient if the companies producing these products were able to create an attitude of normalcy about urinary incontinence? They might coin a phrase like light bladder leakage and tell you it's just an inevitable consequence of childbirth and aging, part of being a woman. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. And so you always have to consider incentives whenever you're considering a medical decision. Where's this information coming from? Have I really got a complete picture about the condition I need to be treated for? Bladder control is a fitness issue. It deserves a fitness solution. And it makes sense to at least try and perform a program of pelvic floor rehabilitation, a targeted program of pelvic floor exercise, before being put to sleep in the operating room and having permanent synthetic mesh implanted into your body. As I mentioned, the mid-urethral sling procedure, the TOT, the TVT are not bad procedures. Quite the opposite. They're excellent surgical procedures for treating stress incontinence, but it shouldn't be the first line treatment. Just a few minutes a day can solve this problem for the majority of patients that undertake it. Thank you so much for watching today. Next week's video is going to be on overactive bladder, the other common form of bladder control problems that accounts for a multi-billion-dollar industry. Medications that treat bladder control problems like overactive bladder are expensive, have side effects, and guess what? Just like surgery for bladder control, they can usually be avoided as well. You're going to hear the honest truth here about these problems. You're going to hear about conservative solutions and what you can do to avoid surgery, to avoid expensive medication. So, if you like this video, let us know by hitting the like button. If you didn't like this video, hit the like button anyway. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and please leave a comment below. I want feedback from you. Seems to be harder to get people to do that than to like the videos or to subscribe to the channel. But if there's something you want to hear about, the only way I'm going to know is if you leave that comment below. Thanks very much for helping us build this community. I'm going to see you next week. Enjoy.